Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident. And you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea. Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident. And you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
The following is brought to you courtesy of the No Phony Podcast Network, home of independent awesomeness.
Welcome back to another episode of the Book Reading Podcast. I, as always, am Melissa, and tonight is a jam-packed episode. I am continuing our journey to learn about cool, inspirational women by highlighting Construction Tales, a short story collection by Leslie M. Jasper, as well as some more information on Our Bodies, Ourselves by the Boston Women's Health Book Collective. Thank you so much, first of all, to all of my listeners, old and new. If you're joining me for the first time tonight, of course, welcome, but I would definitely go back a couple weeks and check out the first couple episodes in this women's series that I've been working on. So I really hope you find something that you enjoy in there. And of course, a special thanks to all of my family, friends, and amazing support system. I certainly could not do this without you.
Whoever you are, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Just a couple of comments to kick off before I really get started. From Feminists Without Mystique, last week's promo pod, they wrote on Twitter, "Thanks for the promo." And I say to you, you're welcome. No problem, anytime. Deluxe Edition, yet another pop culture podcast, wrote on Twitter, "New episode of Book Reading is available now. Thank you for the shout out and for the plug and, all that extra love on the social media. Hopefully will garner some more people to come to the Brook. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that." And from the star of our show tonight, Leslie M. Jasper herself, left a comment on Twitter, stopping by to peep Volume 2 on the pod and show some love. "I'd love for you to check out first GE engineer Edith Clark. She was a kick-ass lady. I will be sharing your episodes on my 4 blogs. Thanks for the heads up. # Construction Tales shoutout on Book Reading Pod." First of all, of course, you're welcome. You're awesome. And thank you for the info. I can't wait to research that woman. And if you liked all of the shout-outs before, I hope you like this episode right now. Also, discussing Leslie's blog, if you go back a couple of blogs of hers, she actually listened to a few episodes of Book Reading, just some random ones, and gave an amazing review. She wrote such a detailed, wonderful blog explaining all the aspects of the shows that she liked. So thank you so much for doing that. That was, talk about getting the word out. I really, really appreciated that. Thank you so much. And I will be getting back to you this week regarding those questions that you had asked, so you can add them to the post. But it meant a lot to me for you to really take the time and write that and add that to your blog. So that was very special. Thank you, Leslie. I did fall down the internet rabbit hole a little bit to fill you in briefly about the Reproductive Rights Conference that I had mentioned last week. The full name of the event, I found out, is From Abortion Rights to Social Justice, Growing the Movement for Reproductive Freedom. It was created by the Civil Liberties and Public Policy Group at Hampshire College in Amherst, Massachusetts. So there's also Amherst College, and there's, the Five Sisters colleges, so I was getting a little mixed up in my facts. And like I said, it was almost 20 years ago. So thankfully I wanted to clear everything up. But they have a ton of groups and organizations that either sponsor or host workshops during the conference. As I mentioned, Human Rights Campaign, Amherst College, Sexuality, Women, and Gender Studies, the Third Wave Foundation, Planned Parenthood, and Our Bodies Ourselves. Then there will all be these smaller indie groups that come to host parts of the event or workshops or, fun times, like Tammy's and my personal favorite when we went, the Raging Grannies. I had never seen them before. They were amazing. The event usually takes place around April or May of the year, except for last year, obviously. But I do believe they did it online. There were links to different YouTube channels, so they probably hosted a lot of the types of events and workshops that they have, just in an online fashion like everything else happened last year. But if you are interested in next year's event, I will post the website online on the blog for you to grab some more info. And not gonna lie, I'm thinking about going again too. I was checking it out and I'm like, 2022, that could be really cool. I do have another event in May though. I don't know if I want to even reveal, but it's super special between my best friend Allie and I at the end of May. So I don't know, I'm not going to talk about that till it gets closer, but if it conflicts with that, I unfortunately can't go. But if it doesn't, if it's in April maybe, might have to get a group of gals together and go check it out, because it would be so much fun. It was so amazing the other times we went. And if you have an opportunity, if you live in the Massachusetts, Connecticut, New England area, and you can get yourself down there, it's so cool. But if you would like to leave a comment, have a question, or want to make a suggestion for a future novel, you can find me on Twitter at BrookeReadingPod, on Instagram at BrookeReading, or via email brookereading@gmail.com. Lastly, you can go to facebook.com/groups/BrookeReadingCollective and get involved there. To find all of the Brooke Reading related content in one place, you can go ahead and visit www.brookereadingpodcast.com. If you enjoy the show and you want to find other amazing podcasts to add to your collection, check out the following hashtags on Twitter: WLI Podpeeps, Lady Pod Squad, and Podern Family. You can also find other great shows on the No Phony Podcast Network. Before I get into the meat of tonight's episode, I do want to take a brief promo break. This is not a separate promo that has been produced by the show. It's just me talking about them and telling you how much I love them. So tonight I want to feature the Talking Codswallop podcast. My friend Gemma created and hosts this show with her friend James. They used to have another co-host, Andy. But she also brings in a lot of other pals to help co-host every once in a while. They just actually are branching out. They're doing a lot of stuff over there at Talking Codswallop, so get on the train now. Join their Facebook group. Follow them on all the social media. They're so much fun. The premise of the show basically is, if you know what codswallop means, it just means like kind of talking trash, talking rubbish, talking about what's going on in your life, kind of poking a little bit of fun at yourself, making fun of whatever had happened, but it's just so real and sincere and hysterical. Gemma is she's so witty and clever, and James, her co-host, he has, such a way with words. Both of them their interactions with each other. It's really like I'm just sitting on the couch with a couple of my friends listening to them share stories back and forth, and I just get to revel in the enjoyment of it. And it's such a great time. So definitely go find the Talking Codswallop podcast on all your podcatchers. Check out Gemma and all of her pals. They've expanded to create the celluloid codswallop. They do interviews now too. Gemma has interviewed so Gemma and I realized over our virtual friendship over the past couple of years that we have a good amount of things in common. And one of them is our reverence and respect for Ralph Garman, Eddie Pence, Steve Ashton, and all of the people featured on the Ralph Report. And she has actually interviewed all of those people. She interviewed Eddie Pence I listened to that. That was a great interview. She sounded like, okay, this is one thing I have to say about Gemma. She sounds cool all the time, and I'm super jealous of that because I don't sound like that. But her interview with Eddie was amazing. They sounded like old pals reconnecting. And like I said, that's the vibe of every episode of Talking Codswallop. You just sound like you're sitting down with an old friend. So she's interviewed Steve Ashton and Carrie Watson, who have created a new Patreon kind of podcast blog, like self-help situation called Holistic Buffet. And okay, maybe that's a plug for Holistic Buffet too, but that is a really cool thing that the two of them have put together. So she interviewed them and allowed them to talk further on that. That was an amazing interview as well. And apparently this episode I haven't listened to yet, but she said way back in the day at the beginning of the Talking Codswallop podcast, she interviewed Ralph Garman, and I almost shit myself when she told me that. So that is really exciting to me. But go check out the Talking Codswallop podcast. It's hysterical. Gemma, you're great. And just go find them on all the podcatchers. Stay tuned, though. I will be right back for the meat of this episode after a short ad break.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
And I'm back. Before I get started, however, with the review of Construction Tales by Leslie, I wanted to, as I mentioned, give you a little more info on Our Bodies Ourselves. I found a CNN article that was written in October of 2011, which was celebrating the 40th anniversary of Our Bodies Ourselves. It was entitled From Filthy Trash to Iconic Resource, Our Bodies Ourselves at 40. Quote, it was described by evangelical pastor Jerry Falwell as obscene trash. Of course it was. But like, really? It's literally a medical textbook. The more I've been going through it this week to prepare for some highlights for next week's episode, it is literally like they can use this in, medical schools to teach, especially in obstetrics or gynecology or anything like that. So, of course, due to that, this book was banned in many places, especially high schools and public libraries when it was first released. But more people than not, male and female, got a hold of it, read it, passed it around to other friends who felt that they would really need that kind of information. Thank God. Another quote, many of them had had very bad experiences around their health and medical care, around their encounters with physicians, OBOS Executive Director Judy Norsigian remembered. You lived in an era then where, if you went to a physician and you were a married woman, and you were diagnosed with gonorrhea, your physician would tell your husband and not you. Now, from just the pieces of research that I've done surrounding this, era of our history, totally true. Like, it was ridiculous back then for a woman, married or single, to go to the doctor and ask questions about not only her reproductive health, but her sexual health and her sexual wants, and how that was gonna, how she can parlay that into taking care of her own body. Those conversations obviously weren't even happening. They're still taboo nowadays. But as I did more research on OBOS, I discovered that, number one, the book has been translated into 33 languages and has gone completely global. And number two, in 2018, the resources, mainly the financial resources, to keep collaborations going to continually evolve the book, kind of waived. But that didn't stop them completely, though, as they took on volunteers and transitioned their organization to work on two major goals: advocating for women's health and social justice, and providing limited technical support to Our Bodies Ourselves global partners. They are also working on Our Bodies Ourselves Today, quote, a new platform that will feature updated and inclusive information about women's health and sexuality. The site is expected to launch in 2022. Yes, I am so excited for that. I can't wait to update you all on that when that comes out, because of course that's going to be a total book reading episode. But like I said, I wanted to provide you with a breakdown of the chapters first. I'm just going to tell you the names of the sections in the chapters. And in next week's episode, I will cover highlights of 1 or 2 of those said chapters. So stay tuned for that. Section 1 is entitled Taking Care of Ourselves. This includes body image, eating well, alcohol, tobacco, and other mood-altering drugs, our bodies in motion, complementary health practices, emotional well-being, environmental and occupational health, violence and abuse. Section 2, Relationships and Sexuality. Gender identity and sexual orientation, relationships with men, relationships with women, sexuality, sexual anatomy, reproduction, and the menstrual cycle, safer sex, sexually transmitted infections, HIV, and AIDS. Section 3 is entitled Reproductive Choices. This covers considering parenting, birth control, unexpected pregnancy, and abortion. Section 4, Childbearing, covers pregnancy, childbirth, the first year of parenting, childbearing loss, infertility, and assisted reproduction. Section 5, Growing Older, midlife and menopause, and our later years. Section 6 was entitled Medical Problems and Procedures. The chapter's titles were pretty interesting in this section. They are Unique to Women and Special Concerns for Women. One of these I may touch upon next week, to be completely honest. And lastly, Section 7 is entitled Knowledge is Power, and the chapters are called Navigating the Healthcare System, The Politics of Women's Health, and Organizing for Change. Oh, and I did not forget to tell you, there are 799 pages in this book. So as I mentioned, I don't know if I could do a full episode just on this book, but I did promise to give you a page total. So there we go. Briefly, before I start delving into Construction Tales, I do want to remind you again, please go visit Leslie's website, www.constructiontales.com. I will again post it in the blog. I'll try to post it in the show notes too, but sometimes websites don't work on the show notes, but I will post it everywhere. Go check out Leslie's stuff. Pick up your own copy of Construction Tales, her short story collection. I purchased this and the adapted version for teens, but I'm not doing, as I mentioned, a full-on spoiler review because it's still very new. So again, I want you to pick this up so you can support her, but also I'm not going to ruin a lot of stuff. I mean, I know this is like the memoir of her life, and obviously, again, spoilers, quote unquote, are contained in her blog because she's talking about her daily life. But this particular set of stories is a pure memoir. And not only is it such a good story, but I've read such funny highlights and important pieces of advice for people of any age. And I know she has the adaptation for teenagers, but a lot of these pieces of advice are obviously incredibly relevant to anyone. Right off the bat, Leslie tells us the reaction of other people when they hear what she does for a living. She joined the U.S. Navy and studied to be a construction electrician. She survived a bad accident, was stationed in Guantanamo Bay, and met her husband, a Marine. When they were both discharged, they married and had a child. She was trying to continue school, work full-time, and care for her new baby. Throughout her first job, there was a lot of ignorance towards her. She's a woman, she's married with a kid, and since she was just happened to be befriending many people of color at her new job, she was accused by these racist assholes that she was working with of automatically having a romantic preference for Black or Hispanic men. So not only were her co-workers being disgusting towards her based on her gender, but on race as well. She even got flack from other women at the job. I don't understand. But she was able to meet and befriend one woman, Melissa, that she worked very well with. They worked so well together, but of course people were getting angry about this, and for some dumb reason started calling them Team Hairbrush, but as not as a sign of respect. It was like a derogatory term because the both of them were women and doing well together. I don't know. I don't get it. But she did discover quickly how much sarcasm electricians have, and if you can't shoot right back away, you kind of won't be respected. More stories about her coworkers, good ones as well as the bad, stories between her and her bosses. After a terrible tragedy befell her, she picked up more jobs to make ends meet, which the way she describes all the jobs that she was working all at the same time blows my mind. I have no idea how this woman got out of bed in the morning. In Connecticut, she starts her 5-year apprenticeship because, she didn't have enough to do. But also finishing the apprenticeship she would be able to pass her licensure exam and, move on as a full-time electrician. Lots more stories of the practical jokes and the pranks that these people would play on each other. The people at this particular job find out about her struggles and really begin to help her out, though, with used furniture, baby clothes, etc. She gets moved to another job, as you tend to do in this field, I found out. But a piece of advice also comes to fruition through this. Be mindful of first impressions, which can make or break you in this or any field. Totally, 100%. Her upbringing gave her a lot of necessary character for this work, physical and emotional strength, intelligence, and respect. She is also very competitive and put people, especially men, in their place. We learn about her relationships with her apprentice classmates. Mostly, they got along really well. They were a tight-knit group. The other female in the class was removed for general not knowing what she was doing-ness, though. When Leslie worked at a job with this woman for a bit, male co-workers would tend to ask her about other women. They'd be like, "Oh, you're a woman. Do you know so-and-so?" She's like, "I don't know every female electrician in the business." She reflects on her teachers during her apprenticeship, successfully graduated from college, and passed her state licensure exam. Yay! She had started to discuss the misogyny and chauvinism that she had experienced throughout, but then she devoted one entire chapter to it, which I thought was really important. One of the foremen, though, that she worked with started calling her Monica, as in Lewinsky, because it was around that time. Luckily, she does have a very good sense of humor and was actually able to take it in stride, but it's still not okay. She kept in touch with her apprentice friends. We hear the remainder of the story of her working with Melissa and their great work together. Another awesome piece of advice: always keep your head up, and if you feel like something's wrong, don't do it. Quote, "I felt that I needed to be exposed to as many elements and have as much people as possible so I could be valuable on each job I set foot upon. Met lots of good, kind people who helped her out, even though she never purposefully aired her struggles. They would just find out one way or another, but then pitch in." Crazy story about how she almost sent a guy to join the military. But like I said, you're going to have to read to find out. But I was crying laughing. It was so funny. We learned about the lessons that she learned about herself while studying for her licensure exam. Again, another good piece of advice. You have to find balance. Yes, of course, it's obviously important to study and work hard, but you have to find ways to relax too. And that is definitely advice that I need to take. P.S. During her first post-apprentice job, we get lots of highlights, including some fun with gumball machines. Basically, don't rob a bank with her. We meet some of her new coworkers, and don't take my tools. Her next job was with a terrible man, unfortunately right around the time of 9/11, 2001. So much anti-Muslim crap. Another piece of advice: if you have a tendency to be greedy, lazy, or generally not a hard worker, this might not be the career for you, which I totally get. Quote, "Networking, managing the social relations aspect, is almost as important within the blue-collar industry as it is within the white-collar industry." Another quote, "It never made sense to me that a woman could not perform a task strictly based on the fact that she is a female." Never made sense to me either. During the recession, Leslie focused on advanced degrees and now is embarking on a new plan. "My experience as a journeywoman electrician has opened many doors for me and has made anything I want to do in life a possibility." End quote. And that is it. That is my wrap up on Construction Tales, the short story collection by Leslie M. Jasper. Again, please, I implore you to go check this out for yourself because, like I said, that was a summary, that was highlights, that was from every chapter, but I put a lot of things together that kind of made sense with, the other stories. In order to just take this journey with her, you definitely need to go read it. So please go check out her work. It's on Amazon Kindle Vella. If you have a Kindle, just go on your Amazon app and you can find it. It's super simple. And go check out her blog. Subscribe to it because then you get them all the time. She writes constantly, so you'll always get updates as to what's going on with Leslie. And please stay tuned for next week where I maybe wrap up this series. It will be part 4. It will be the answers to the survey that I sent out. It will be another little bit of summary and highlights from Our Bodies Ourselves. And hopefully anything else I find in the next week. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. This has been a really important and fun series for me to do. So I hope you've been enjoying it too. And of course, have a great rest of your weekend. You take care and I love you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Get ready to cheer on Team USA. Sign up for Xfinity Internet and get a Flex 4K streaming box free and Peacock Premium included. Can your internet do that?
Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Peacock subscription required.
Xfinity, proud partner of Team USA.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.